So these are the parts we have seen till now: work breakdown structure, linear responsibility chart, interface coordination, concurrent engineering. So this is the next part what we have to understand. This is all about project cost estimation and project budgeting. So normally what happens is, in day to day life, the common people or even the people who are involved with the project, they consider these two terms, budgeting and project cost estimation, as one and the same. They feel that the both terms are same, the meaning is exactly same, and they can be used interchangeably at any particular time. Okay, so that is the thought, that is the, you can say, that is the opinion of people, that is the feedback from people, that budgeting and project cost estimation, they are similar terminologies. We can say budgeting or we can say project cost estimation. So in actual sense, these two terms, they they are not having exactly the same meaning, even though both the terms, they are related to the financial aspects of your project. But still, there is a very minor difference or small difference with respect to the actual meaning of these two terms. So we can say they are nothing but the two sides of a coin. So they are not one and the same, they are different. Both of them are related to the project finance management knowledge area. Both of them are related to the financial management, financial aspects of your project. But still, there is some difference between the two terminologies what we are using. One is project cost estimation and other is project budgeting. When we use the word cost estimation, we should understand that this cost estimation is nothing but it is a process of quantifying every resource that is going to be used to complete a project. So when we simply say about resource which is required to complete a project, we may simply have a list of resources which are required. When we say resources, the resources may be either, as we are discussing all time, the resources may be either human resources or they may be non-human resources like material, it may be machinery, it may be equipment, it may be infrastructure, it may be the finance, it may be certain technical advice, technical consultancy, it may be with respect to certain permissions and grants from different authorities. So there are so many resources which are essential for completion of the project. And if you simply have a list of these resources, that we say it is nothing but a qualitative list. We have simply listed whatever are the resources essential to complete a particular project. But when we go for cost estimation, we are trying to add a component of how much is the amount incurred or how much amount will be required to complete that particular task, or how much cost that particular resource will be incurred. So that we are trying to add. So that's why we say it is quantifying the resource. We are trying to represent the resource in terms of quantitative manner, in terms of the amount which is required to be spent to gain that particular resource. And hence, whenever we are saying resources, it means everything, that is labor, material, land, and everything else that is needed to be paid in terms of the project. Cost estimate is a list and quantification of all the various resources which have been listed with a dollar amount attached to it. Now the word dollar has been used over here because we are thinking from global perspective, from, because we don't know a project whether it is a domestic project or the project is an international project. So whenever we are thinking in terms of project, we should try to understand that projects may be executed in any country. So we should be able to give the quantification either in terms of the local currency. Let us say if a project is executed in India and the company who is executing the project is Indian and all the stakeholders they are also from the same country, then you may go for quantifying the resources which are required in terms of rupees, the money which is required to be spent. But if your project is in India, the main company who is handling the project is from India, but that company has subcontracted some works to the people who are from other country, then it is always better that you should quantify the activities, quantify the resources in terms of the most commonly used currency, that is in dollars, so that across the globe people will try to correlate what is the cost estimation in dollars given for that particular activity, and then in that domestic currency how much will be incurred to that particular agency or that particular organization. At the end of the process, you have a single dollar amount that represents the roll up of everything that you have quantified. Okay, so that you have qualified. So whatever you have qualified, that this particular can be considered as a resources, and that resource which you have qualified for the project has been quantified into the amount which is required to be spent, and then you go on adding all these amounts which are required, then what you get is the list of all resources, the individual cost which is required to be spent for each resource, and at the end you are getting the overall cost, overall uh, cost estimation of all the resources which are needed for that particular project. Now once you have this cost estimation, then comes the next step, that is project budgeting. Once you have your estimation of the cost ready, based upon that estimation of cost, you can decide how much will be the project budget, because always budgeting is the next step after the project cost estimation stage. Once you have the project cost estimation, that serves as a base for the next step, that is project budgeting. So this project budgeting will be always relying on what is the project cost estimate. The budgeting will be always dependent on your project cost estimation. And when you have the estimation or cost estimation of your project, you go on adding certain, you can say, like if you are a mechanical engineer, you go for uh, let us say design of a shaft. You go for certain calculation and you try, you get the value of the diameter of your shaft is, let us say, 10 mm, 20 mm. Then what you do is you go for some factor of safety and try to go for some oversize of the shaft, so that anything which is beyond your control, even if it is coming, it should be able to sustain those particular loads which are coming on that particular shaft. Similarly, when you have cost estimation, it is a tentative cost estimation for the various resources required. When you actually execute the activities, maybe whatever you have planned at that duration, if the activity is not undertaken, the cost which is estimated and the cost which is actually required may vary, may either increase or may be decreasing. Most of the times it goes for increment. So that's why when you are going for project budgeting, you need to add that uncertainty component into that, and try to have slightly more amount than what you have got for the project cost estimation. So you have to have an idea of what the cost will be before you set out to do your budgeting. Budgeting is the process of identifying not the amounts but the sources of funds to be used to cover the cost estimates. So in budgeting, what we are going to do is we are trying to go for escalation of the cost what you have determined using the cost estimation, and also you are trying to find out the source of fund from which this amount is going to your project organization. whether you are going for some bank to finance your project, or there are certain other agencies who will be financing your project, or you have some sponsoring authority who is going to sponsor your project. So what is the cost estimated? Based upon cost estimated, what is the final budget which is prepared for your project? And once your budget is ready for different activities, from where the funds are going to get generated, from where the funds are going to get available for that project, that you have to take into account when you are going for budgeting of the project, or when you are going for project budget. So let us try to understand this project cost estimation in detail. So project cost estimation in project management, it is a process of forecasting the financial and other resources needed to complete a project within a defined scope. So when you are going for cost estimation, what we need is, we should know what is the schedule and what are the various activities involved in your project. So once you have this, then you can go for some forecasting for what? The financial requirements and the resources which are required to complete the project. Cost estimation accounts for each element required for the project, from materials to labor, and calculates total amount that determines the project budget. So right from material, then machinery, equipment, infrastructure, the software which may be needed, consultancy charges, maybe some procurement charges, some legal expenses what your project may be incurring, some import export duties, and so on. So you go on listing all the elements which will be incurring certain cost, which will be having that cost component with that, and then calculate the total amount which will be determining the project budget. So you go on adding this all, and that will be giving the foundation for preparation of your project budget. An initial cost estimate can determine whether an organization green lights a project, and if the project moves forward, the estimate can be a factor in defining the project scope. So that cost estimation will be the very important criteria for any organization to give green signal for start of a project, to give clearance that yes, this project can be undertaken. Because whenever any project manager goes to the higher authorities for permission to execute the project, before the project charter is prepared, the company will ensure how much is the cost estimation of your project, and whether that cost estimation is really worthy, really uh, affordable for that particular organization. And if that is satisfying those requirements, then they will be giving the green signal or clearance to conduct or carry out that particular project. If the project moves forward, estimate can be a factor in defining the project scope. So as and when your project is moving forward, it is in progress, your cost estimation may become a factor in defining the project scope, because project scope which is already defined, whenever you are progressing through the project, sometimes because of certain cost factors, certain cost which you have taken into account, but it is exceeding that estimation what you have, you may need to slightly modify your scope also. So that will be a deciding factor in project scope definition. If the cost estimation comes in too high, an organization may decide to pare down the project to fit what they can afford. So because the financial aspects, they are very important, very crucial. So if the cost estimation, the organization higher authorities feel that the estimated cost is very high, then they may go for uh, cutting down certain activities, revising the scope of your project, so that at least, if even if the project is sure to be executed, it will be getting completed within the cost which is affordable to the organization. It is also required to begin securing funding for the project. So parallelly, the organization can start working on from where they can get the funds, from where they can get the source of financial aspects for that particular project if they are not able to afford it on their own. Once the project is in motion, the cost estimate is used to manage all of its affiliated costs in order to keep the project on budget. So as and when the project is ongoing, it is moving from start to finish, the cost estimation will be always kept as a reference, and every point of time whatever cost is incurred, it will be compared with the estimation of cost. And if you are spending more for any particular activity, the things will be ensured that in some other activity you will try to bring down the cost by a certain amount, so that the overall budget, overall cost estimation, that will not get hampered because of that change in your cost. Some key types of costs which should be addressed in the cost estimation process. So the major area of concern for cost estimation, one is direct cost and other is indirect cost. So when we say about the direct costs, these are the costs associated with a single area like a department or this particular project itself. So the examples of direct cost include fixed labor, materials and equipment. So let us say a certain project requires some equipment, some machinery, some specific infrastructure to carry out the project, a specific type of people who will be working on that particular project. So these all will be your direct cost, because these everything is required to carry out the project, and they are allotted, they have been assigned to that project itself. And sometimes there are some other type of costs which are called as indirect costs. So in indirect costs, there are costs which are incurred by the organization at large, such as utilities and quality control. So when I say utilities, let us say the water supply in your company, the electricity charges which will be there, and some common facilities which will be there. So likewise, there may be some costs which will be not directly related to the project, but they will be always there, and the company needs to spend on that. So that also should be taken into account when you are going for cost estimation. And certain quality control measures, quality control procedures, quality management principles, quality control exercises, whatever you are conducting. So these will be all the indirect costs involved in your project. Within these two categories, some typical elements that a cost estimation will take into account, it includes labor, the cost of project team members working on the project, both in terms of wages and time. So the cost which will be spent on the team members of your project in terms of their salaries, in terms of their bonus, in terms of some incentives, in terms of some additional features, additional what you can say, some additional facilities provided to them. So these all will be coming under your labor cost. Materials and equipment, the cost of resources required for the project, from physical tools to software to legal permits. So they all will be coming in the second type of category, that is materials and equipment. Third is about the facilities, the cost of using any working space not owned by the organization. So sometimes you may take some facility on rent, some facility which is owned by some other organization or government authorities. You will be taking that particular facility on rent for a limited period of time for completion of certain project activity. So that will be coming under the facility cost. Then vendors, the cost of hiring third party vendors or contractors. So if you are going for subcontracting some work or assigning some work to your vendors, then there may be some cost which will be involved. And the last component of this cost estimation is about the risk. the cost of any contingency plans implemented to reduce the risk. So when the risk analysis is undertaken, you have identified certain risks and you find that these certain risks are sure to be present in your project. Then to reduce their effect, you may have certain plans for responding the risk, and there will be certain amount of cost which will be required to spend to reduce the risk. So when we are considering the direct cost, then hello, there was slight disturbance. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So these were some of the components of the cost estimation, either in the direct cost or indirect cost. Then moving to the next part, that is top down budgeting. This top down budgeting is, as the name suggests, it is from the higher authorities to the lower levels of your employment, levels of your employees. So from top to down, this will be the budgeting procedure. So cost estimation we have seen, there are two types of cost, direct cost and indirect cost. And when we are considering the direct and indirect costs, the various costs which are there are the cost which is incurred on labor, the cost which is required for material and equipments, the cost which is required for risks, and the cost which is required for facilities and vendors. Then coming to the next part, which is related to budgeting. So now when we discuss about the top down budgeting, this top down budgeting strategy, it is based on collecting the judgments and experiences of top and middle manager and available past data concerning similar activities. So when you are going for budgeting in the top down kind of strategy, then what you do is you try to contact the top and senior managers or middle level managers, and try to get their judgment and experiences about that activity. Try to find out their opinions and feedbacks, their estimation about carrying out that activity. And also you go for uh, referring to some past data available related to the same activity or similar activity. So based upon this, you are going for budgeting that particular activity. Then we call it as top down budgeting. So these managers, top level managers, senior managers, middle level managers, they estimate overall project cost as well as the cost of major sub projects that comprise it. These cost estimates are then given to lower level managers who are expected to continue the breakdown into budget estimate for specific tasks and work packages that comprise the sub project. This process continues to the lowest level. So what happens is the top management, the senior managers, level managers, they will try to have estimation of certain cost or some allocation of budget for the major activities in your project and the project as a whole, and then they will allocate that budget, and then they will hand over the charge to the lower level manager who is expected to break down that particular activity into again small sub activities elements, and whatever budget is allocated he will be required to again allocate to the different activities in that major activity which is under consideration. Now let us try to understand that. Take one example that any XYZ company, they want to launch or they want to go for a new product and they want to sell in the market. When they want to go for launching a new product and sell in the market, they will try to understand that there is some major cost which will be needed to be allocated, some budget which will be needed to be allocated for a certain infrastructure which is to be developed. So they will simply say for development of infrastructure, some XYZ amount is budgeted. Once that, now when they budget XYZ amount for that infrastructure facilities which are to be developed, it is all depending upon their judgments, their experiences, some past reference data which is available. They will try to come to a certain amount that this is the budget required to carry out this particular development of infrastructure for that project. Now once that amount is allocated for infrastructure development for that project, then it will be handed over to the concerned person at the lower level that you are the in charge of infrastructure development. So now this is the budgeted amount. Now that infrastructure development manager will have the responsibility to break the activity. The infrastructure development should be broken into variety of small elements, and whatever total budget has been allocated, that needs to be allocated to the individual components, individual work packages, individual elements of your project. So likewise, once he is allocating individual budget for any particular element of that project, then the person who is working on that element, actually he will be asked to determine again sub elements of that activity, sub elements of that element, and try to again distribute that budget on those sub elements. The budget, like the project, is broken down into successively finer details. Like we go for work breakdown structure, similar to that, the budget will be broken down to various components, sub components, elements likewise, starting from the top or most aggregated level following the work breakdown structure. It is presumed that the lower level managers will argue for more funds if the budget allocation they have been granted is, in their judgment, insufficient for the task assigned. So now what happens in this case is, since the budget is finalized, that has been decided by the top management, whenever it reaches to the lowest level or lower level, and they have been asked that you have to complete this particular activity which is for which you are in charge within this particular cost, that is a budgeted amount, then they may have certain arguments that this particular activity cannot be completed in this much amount. As per my experience, this requires more budget, something like this. When senior managers insist on maintaining their budgetary positions based on considerable past experience, junior managers feel forced to accept what they perceive to be insufficient allocations to achieve the project objectives which they must commit. So, in that case, the lower level managers cannot argue much because of the levels of organization, the authorities in the organization. So, what they feel, there is a slight feeling with the lower level managers that there is forced type of decision making. The decisions are made and then they are forced on the lower levels, and they have to now execute as it is. So that kind of feeling, that kind of uh, a sense of feeling that may get generated within the junior managers, because they have to accept whatever budget has been given by the top authority and try to manage that activity within that budget itself. To avoid this feeling, there is another kind of approach which is suggested, which is bottom up budgeting. So instead of going from top to down, deciding the budget at the top and then asking the lower level people to manage the activity within that budget itself, there is another approach which is bottom up. In this case, the things are moving from lower level to the upper level. The people who are actually working on particular activity, they will be taken into account, they will be consulted with respect to how much time will be required, how much uh, what resources will be required, whether the resources will be required 100% or they are required partially, and based upon their hands on experience with that activity, that budget will be decided. So in this particular method, in this particular approach, elemental task, their schedules and their individual budgets, they are constructed first, again following the work breakdown structure. So always work breakdown structure will be considered to be the reference document. So why the work breakdown structure is essential? It is required for scheduling activity, it is required for cost estimation, it is required for budgeting of your project, because everything depends upon how your work breakdown structure has been prepared. So that's why care must be taken whenever you are preparing the work breakdown structure. You have to take into account each and every aspect of every process, every activity. Nothing should be skipped. Everything should come in black and white, and everything should come on that particular work breakdown structure diagram. Because at the end, when you are going for cost estimation, budgeting, scheduling, resource allocation, if that activity is missing in work breakdown structure, you will not get any resource, you will not get any budget for that, you will not get any other support for carrying out the activity. So everything what is included in the project should come as any activity in your work breakdown structure. The people doing the work are consulted regarding the times and budgets for the task to ensure the best level of accuracy. So this is more appropriate because the people who are working on the particular activity for many years in actual sense, they will have more feel of how the or what will be the requirement of budget for carrying out that particular activity with best level of accuracy. Otherwise, what will happen, if they are forced to complete that activity within a given budget, then naturally they will think that the quality cannot be maintained. So to maintain the quality, level of accuracy, their opinion, their feedback, their experiences, their judgment, that is more essential, because these people, they are actually executing the project. Initially, estimates are made in terms of resources such as labor hours and materials. These are later converted to dollar equivalent. So initially what they do is, the people who are working on that particular activity, they will try to consider the resources, the materials, labor, their hours, the cost estimation of that, everything. then that is going to get converted into monetary terms in terms of rupees, dollar, whatever, wherever you are working for the project, so that you will get the budget of that particular activity. Standard analytic tools like learning curve analysis, that we are going to discuss next, and work sampling, they are employed where appropriate to improve the estimate. So learning curve analysis or work sampling, that is essential to improve the estimates, because estimates cannot be finalized at once. They need to be go for reworking. Differences of opinion are resolved by the usual discussions between senior and junior managers. So a dialogue is essential between the higher level and lower levels of management. So wherever there are differences with the budgeted amount costing of a particular activity, then always those differences of opinions, they will be resolved by the regular discussions between variety of levels of your management. If necessary, the project manager and functional managers may enter the discussion in order to ensure the accuracy of the estimates. If required, like if we go for that linear responsibility chart, then we say, sometimes we say that particular person must be consulted, and some people they may be consulted. So likewise in this case, project manager and functional manager may be consulted for budgeting part. They may enter the discussion if there are certain differences, the conflict resolution. You may consult the project manager and functional manager. They will take part in the discussion, and they will ensure that the accuracy of the estimate is appropriate. The resulting task budget are aggregated to give the total direct cost of your project. So once you have the budget for individual activity, individual element, you will be going for clubbing this together, aggregating it together, so that the total direct cost of your project will be understood by the people. The project manager adds some direct cost like general and administrative cost, possibly a project reserve for contingencies, and then a profit figure to arrive at the final project budget. So when the project manager will take into account this direct cost calculated through this bottom up budgeting, then he will add some components into that. Which are these components of cost? General and administrative charges. Then there may be some reserved fund which will be required for managing any uncertainties or responding any uncertainties. And then there may be some profit margin required, the requirement of profit margin to complete the particular project. So that will be added to that amount, which is the direct cost. And then finally the project budget will be finalized. It will be coming into the formal structure. The differences, top down budgeting and bottom up budgeting. The advantage of top down process is aggregate budgets can often be developed quite accurately, though a few individual elements may be significantly in error. So when you go for top down approach, aggregate budget will be developed faster, and as that aggregate budget of the overall project is developed with the consent of top management and middle management, they have put in their efforts, they have put in their experiences. So there are slight chances that the budget will go beyond that particular budgeted amount. It may happen that few individual elements, their cost will be vary, their expenditure will vary, but that may be adjustable. Somewhere it may go to the higher side, somewhere it may go to the lower side, but the overall budget will get balanced. Not only are budget categories stable as a percentage of total budget, the statistical distribution of each category is also stable, making for high predictability. So sometimes they go on allocating the budget in percentage with respect to the various elements of your project. Now, even when the union budget for a country it is presented, normally you can see in the next day in newspaper or on news channel, if you try to see the analysis of the budget, they say that on defense 10% budget is allocated, for higher education 5% budget is allocated, for rural development some 20% budget is allocated, for transportation some 25% budget is allocated. So normally they give the components, how much percentage of budget is allocated to that. Like if we take the example of this union budgeting, then they say that for, let us say, transportation, we are allocating 25% of the total budget of the country for this particular year. So when they announce like this, 25% means how much is the amount that will be also given to the given in the budget, that this total budget is with this cost, with this particular amount. Out of that 25% is on transportation, so it gets reflected in terms of this many rupees or this many dollars that can be expended on transportation facilities. Now once that budget is sanctioned, then that budget will be given to the minister or the ministry who is handling that transportation department. Now it is up to them how to utilize that particular funds which are available for them, because that particular amount, 25% of overall budget, is supposed to be spent on transportation. Within transportation they can slightly adjust which activity should be given preference, which activity can be given less preference, where to expand, where to lower, to maintain the quality and something like this. The another advantage of top down process is that small yet costly tasks need to be individually identified, nor need it be feared that some small but important aspect has been overlooked. So that is another advantage of this top down process, because the overall budget will be given to that activity. Now it is up to that manager of that activity or in charge of the activity to identify the various activities and spend that particular budget. The experience and judgment of the executive is presumed automatically to factor all such elements into the overall estimate. Questions put to subordinates, however, indicate that senior management has a strong bias towards underestimating the cost. So normally what will happen is, if the lower level managers or the people who are working at lower level, they are more complaining about the budget which is allocated, then it shows that there is a strong bias over the underestimation of the cost. So the top management has gone for underestimation of the costs which are actually needed to complete that particular activity. The advantages of bottom up process are those generally associated with the participative management. So participative management is a kind of management philosophy where the inputs from all the participants of that particular process, they are welcomed, and then the process is carried out. Similarly, in this case, we are taking the inputs from all the people who are actually working on that project. They will try to represent their own activity, and then the overall budget will be prepared. So it is a kind of example of your participative management. Individuals which are closer to the work are apt to have more accurate idea of resource requirement than their superiors or others not personally involved. So it is obvious that the person who is actually or directly related to a particular activity, he will be knowing more that what are the requirements for resources to complete that particular activity, as compared to the people who are at the upper level, who are at the managerial level, who are at the supervisor level, because they are not executing the activity, they are simply supervising, they are simply monitoring the activity. So they may not be having the right feel of the requirements which are needed for that particular activity. In addition, the direct involvement of low level managers in budget preparation increases the likelihood that they will accept the results with a minimum of grumbling. So, when those people are involved in budget estimation, budget preparation of your project, then there will not be any chances of conflicts afterwards, because they will be accepting, as they have been involved in finalizing the budget of that particular activity. Involvement also is a good managerial training technique, giving junior managers valuable experience in budget preparation as well as knowledge of the operations required to generate a budget. So the involvement from the various people working on variety of activities, it is essential, as it is also a kind of good managerial training technique, because saying something or giving directions and then people are working, that is the way of simply dictating the terms, dictating how the people should work. But if they are given participation opportunity, they are given opportunity to get themselves involved in that particular activity, then this is a kind of giving them some managerial exposure. They may be good in their own area, but they may not be good in managing the things or managerial perspectives. So if they are given participation in this kind of activities, that will be a good training with respect to the managerial techniques. This is going to give junior managers valuable experience in budget preparation. So next time when they will be involved again in preparation of the budget, they will come up with more realistic figures, more realistic amounts, because they are already now into this budgeting process. At the same time, these junior managers will gain knowledge of operations which are required to generate a budget. So they will try to understand that what all processes are required to prepare the project budget. So that will be a great learning experience for these people. The next part, which is from this module, is related to the Gantt chart, network analysis with respect to CPM and PERT. So that is all about nothing but networking and scheduling techniques. So Gantt chart, which is used for scheduling and sequencing of the activities, and network analysis to prepare the schedule and to understand the critical path, minimum time required to complete the particular project. So time being, just you try to understand that what is expected in this CPM and PERT kind of problem. Network analysis is drawing the network diagram, determining the critical path and estimation of the project duration. Then we should try to understand the three time estimates: optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely, TO, TP, and TM. How to determine the floats and slacks for your network. How to go for crashing the activities so that the project can be completed with less time consumption. And then leveling the resources. That is another part. So this all is related to the numerical problems which are based on the CPM and PERT methodology. CPM is critical path method and PERT is project evaluation or program evaluation and review technique. Both these techniques are related to the project network, which can be shown in a graphical manner or in the form of a diagram. And this network analysis, if you want to understand in better sense, you may refer this book by Hira and Gupta, Operation Research book, which is S. Chand Publications, New Delhi.